Start again. We are recording. Right, 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock. Let's get going. We've got a lot to cover today. So for those of you who had just joined, you should be able to see my doodle pad and maybe my video as well. Not that you need to see me. We've got a lot to go through, and we have a very real time constraint today because I'm putting the kids to bed tonight, and Ellie said that it's a hard and strict dinner at 5 o'clock. So we have a maximum of 2 hours. I'm hoping we don't go that long because I do waffle off on one sometimes. And so I guess the real purpose of this is to basically share my thoughts on a few different bits and pieces. What I think is bollocks, what isn't bollocks, and what is very real and happening right now. And I guess use it as more of a little prod in the eye. That's a bit aggressive. A little prod in the side to have a little investigation of your own. So everything I say today, you need to maybe take with a pinch of salt, make a few notes, and then Google it for yourself. Because there's a lot of freaky shit that we're going to cover. And I'm probably going to lose a fair few followers after today because it's going to be a very controversial video. So, first of all, super quick answers. So if you want to save yourself some time, an hour or two, these are the answers. NESARA and GESARA is mostly bollocks. The Banking for All Act is getting way more attention than it should, and is most likely not going to pass. And the Great Reset, which is being founded essentially by the World Economic Forum, and the IMF will be the hitmen on this, is very real. And it has already begun. And a lot of people are completely oblivious to this. Now, at some point, there will be a Q&A. I'm going to ignore the chat box for now because it is very distracting. So, yeah, I'll scroll through all the questions later. But, yeah, that's my quick thing. So if you have to bugger off, that's the lowdown. So let's go into this. Now, I would love to spend like an hour on each topic that I'm going to cover today, but we just don't have time, and I think you would be very bored. So I'm going to speak fast and let's get on with this. Now, you have to understand what sort of where someone comes from. So I've got my little hat here. Do you like it? I actually had to YouTube how to make a hat when I made this. It's been so long since I did origami. At one point I was like a black belt in origami, but I couldn't even make a hat. So I got my little tinfoil hat. Now, there's information travels so fast, and there's all sorts of people that have good sounding boards, lots of followers, and you don't really know where they're coming from. So I thought I'd save you the trouble, because you may be thinking, is this guy worth listening to? Is he just an idiot? So I'll let you. Yeah. So here is where I stand now. I'm gonna, like with anything, I'll have a very deep, like, personal stance on things, and then like an official stance. So unfortunately, unless you're a close friend of mine, you won't get my full uncensored thoughts. But I guess my official stance is this. Right. Lizard people, do I think they exist? No. Cannibal elite. Are there cannibals on the planet? Maybe. Are the elite that are controlling the world all cannibals? I doubt it. Flat Earth is a 100% no. I've seen the curvature of the Earth with my own eyes. And controversial, I don't believe in God. At least not like a Christian God, or whoa, my hat's falling off, or like a Muslim God or whatever. I think humans are very, let's put it on this way, I feel like a tin hat warrior now with my beret. I feel that humans always want to believe in something bigger, and so they try and create images or false images of things that they don't understand. And unfortunately, we humans have coined the term God, etc., just trying to explain things that we don't understand, like the sun and the moon, rising every day. I'm just gonna bin this bloody hat. And so Yeah, Elon is God. Sorry, I need to avoid that chat box. So I'm sure there's something, but I just don't believe in the Christian any God. There's I just don't believe if there was a God, they'd want us to worship them in a temple and sacred and do all these sorts of bits and bobs. Anyway, moving on. 9/11. So this is where it gets a bit weird, because all I have are absolute truckloads of questions. Okay, I've read the NIST report. And it just leaves you with more questions. And I think most people that have an opinion on 9/11 have done zero research on it other than what they saw on BBC. So I'm just going to put a big question mark, because, how does one plane destroy 5 buildings in... sorry, 2 planes destroying 5 buildings? It still doesn't make sense. COVID... So I'm going to have to put a tick here, because I think this is more of a convid. Again, that's going to get a lot of hatred. I'm sorry. Illuminati. Now, I don't like the terminology Illuminati. Do I believe that all politicians are puppets? Yes, I do. Do I believe these puppets have a master? Well, all puppets have a master. So, yes, I believe in an elite, let's say, or puppeteers or handlers, etc., but maybe not Illuminati. So I guess it's like a question mark. I mean, I just look at this from a business perspective, right? If you have a big business, you have the director, and the director should just be the shareholder and just steering and guiding and basically doing bugger all in the business. It's the managing director that should be doing all the other, all the stuff, and then the C-suite, CEO, etc. And so you do that in a business, right? It would be silly for a director to be, running everything and doing everything, because you wouldn't see the wood from the trees. Trees from the wood? Whatever. A country is no different. A country is absolutely no different. So it is completely illogical to have the person guiding and steering a nation that is constantly dealing with BS from the media, doing press conferences, shaking hands at pointless meetings all over the country and stuff. That, like, let's take the UK. The Prime Minister is, in my opinion, is just a puppet show, because anyone that is really running the country doesn't have time for that shit. So, yeah. Anyway, aliens. Yeah, I do believe they exist. Whether they're on Earth, I don't know. No one knows. And like with all this stuff, it's unsubstantiated theories. I look at this from a mathematical point of view, or a statistical point of view. Like, it's more improbable that we are the only ones, things in the universe than not. I think life is teeming in the universe. We're just so small, and our science is too young. So happy. You can sort of pigeonhole me in what sort of tin pot conspiracy kook I am. Yeah. James Dilley, Fermi paradox, the Great Filter, etc. So first of all, let's start off with NESARA, GESARA. So a lot of people haven't. Some may not have heard this, but unfortunately, I do meet some really crazy people sometimes, and I hear and see so much. I think just crap, basically. Now, NESARA, it stands for National Economic Security and Recovery Act, and GESARA is global, blah, blah, blah. Now, here's the thing. NESARA was a real thing. So if you actually just go into the wiki, you'll see it here. So NESARA was a set of proposed economic reforms for the US suggested during the 1990s, included replacing income tax with national sales tax, abolishing compounding interest on secured loans, and returning it to a bimetallic currency, would result in 0% inflation, more stability, stable economy, blah, 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 blah. But the proposals were never introduced before Congress, okay? So there's lots of monetary reform which has already happened, that was in the original NESARA, and lots of monetary reform that is happening and is due to happen, okay? So some of it, so I say it's mostly bollocks. It's the crazy people that have made this nuts. Saying that, you're probably thinking, look at this conspiracy theorist thinking other conspiracy theorists are crazy. So I do get the irony. So, but hey, I'm just going to give you information and do your own research. So, unfortunately, NESARA was sort of taken on by this weird cult, the Dove of Oneness, etc. You should have a look at it. It goes really crazy. And when you look at NESARA, GESARA, and try and do some research on, okay, what does it mean? What do these NESARA, GESARA pushers or believers think that are going to happen? you end up with weird, like it's really hard to find any information. You see lots of things like this. I've had to really blow that up, and it's still a bit crap. But long story short, it takes you to really crappy websites like this. Okay, I've got a really good filter when it comes to shit websites and conspiracy stuff because I read and watch everything. Hell, I never dismiss anything, you know, just off the top of my head because I'm not as egotistical enough to think that I know everything firsthand. I don't. So I always research the opinion of other people and then I'll make my choice. Now, bear in mind, I was an Air Force pilot. I've seen the curvature of the Earth with my own eyes. And even then, like last year or 2 years ago, I sat through 3 hours of flat Earth videos. Okay? I was like, right, I'm going to give them the best shot. I'll watch everything. I'll consume everything. And now I 100% dismiss it. So I read everything and I'm used to these sorts of things. But anyway, so this is like the best website I could find with NESARA, GESARA, etc. So where was it? So, and it actually lays out. So everything I guess in this picture here is actually in that article. They've spaced it out. Okay, so let's just go through them and I'll just give my 2 cents. That's all it is. My penny's worth on what it is. So here we go. Short description. Abolishes the IRS, so that's the tax man in the US, with employees of the IRS will be transferred into the US Treasury National Sales Tax area. Okay? So the tax code is vast, it's huge, it is very clunky, inefficient, and civil servants government is bloated, okay? You could easily cut loads of expenses every year of government's budget by just wiping out 90% of civil servants and redistributing them. Like you can run a country with 10% of what it is right now. But so yeah, I mean, if they did a tax reform, that's quite likely. Whether it will happen, I don't know. I will always tell you what I don't know. By the way, abolishes the federal income taxes in the US. Creates a 17% flat rate, non-essential, new items only sales tax revenue for the government. In other words, food and medicine will not be taxed, nor will items such as old homes. Okay, so I'm not going to comment. I don't know. I mean, by the way, this was never passed in Congress. Cancels all credit card, mortgage, and other bank debt due to illegal banking and government activities. So basically, this is where I think a lot of people picked up on it. They're like, oh, debt jubilee, or debt forgiveness, etc. And so obviously this hasn't happened, but you would be foolish to think that this can't happen because debt jubilees have happened throughout history. I would say probably every 100 years in some part of the world there has been a big debt jubilee of some sort. Does this mean your mortgage is going to be wiped off? It's improbable, but again, I'm always open-minded. I'm not going to dismiss it, but I think. Yeah, and then the list gets crazier. So I'm just going to skip through some of it. Yeah, basically another one was they want to get rid of eliminates the Federal Reserve. Last person who said he was going to dismantle the Federal Reserve was JFK. He got shot soon after that. Again, Jesus Christ, there's another conspiracy theory. I'm just 2 and 2. Okay, that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying I believe it, but the Fed have a lot of control in the US. So. Where is it? Creates a US Treasury rainbow currency backed by gold, silver, platinum, and precious metals, ending the bankruptcy of the United States, initiated by Roosevelt in 1933. Okay, so this actually has some sort of credibility. The IMF has, I guess, been hinting for a long time that there will need to be a reaccountancy of the global monetary system. And it is likely that a major nation, whether it will be the IMF, but if it's not the IMF, a major nation may back their currency by a hard asset like gold. So that's fine. Moving on. In fact, let's just skip to the crazy stuff. The thing which makes me feel, so here's one of them. So releases unprecedented prosperity funds in a share the wealth redistribution program for every individual on Earth, as well as the release of enormous sums of money for humanitarian purposes across the planet. Okay, that bit sounds crazy, but it may not sound a bit crazy later, but this means that every human could become a multi-millionaire instantly without debt of any kind. I call bullshit. This is in alignment with the global currency reset and reevaluation. Okay, that bit's real. But the way they said that is, BS. We're not all going to be millionaires. Enable the release of over 6,000 patents of suppressed technologies that are being withheld from the public under the guise of national security, including free energy devices, anti-gravity, and sonic healing machines like med beds and stuff. Okay, like when you make big claims, you need big, irrefutable evidence. Obviously, it's suppressed, supposedly. So, do I think that there is crazy technology behind the scenes that the public have no idea of? Yes. The amount of money that's been filtered into black projects like Skunk Works in America is huge. But yeah, let's move on. Ceases all aggressive US government military action worldwide. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. You have to understand why, like, one of the big proponents of war not war, but military engagements around the world is the military-industrial complex. Okay, this is not conspiracy stuff. There is a huge the military-industrial complex, like the big weapons providers, Boeing, BAE Systems, and all the others. Health Serco's up there as well. They have huge control in the lobbying space, so they get a lot of things passed which suit them, and so it's in their best interest to keep weapons being fired, etc. And it's one of the biggest industries out there. Forces the US military to immediately remove troops from all sovereign nations that no longer willingly accept them to reside on their soil, including Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, Philippines. Again, I call bullshit. Not going to happen. The US are there because they feel it's, in fact, there's a massive topic. Okay, moving on. Eliminates all current and future nuclear-powered weaponry on planet Earth. That'd be nice to see, but it's going to be hard. So extraterrestrial disclosure. Okay, so we're going to go on for ages here, but all the links I'm going to show you will be in the video description of the recording. Okay, so long story short, I think the NESARA GESARA was a real thing. It was picked up by some crazy people. They've added to it, and yeah, I think what will happen is that some of the stuff on here will happen, highly likely to happen, but it won't be in that form. I mean, this goes into literally the Pleiadians. Yeah, they're talking about different aliens and stuff like that. Yeah. So let's move on. I don't want to waste too much time on this, but NESARA GESARA, some of it will happen, most of it won't. Okay, so let's move on to the Banking for All Act. By the way, I didn't want to talk about NESARA GESARA, but I get a Facebook message about it at least once a week, at least. Now, the other thing which I didn't really want to talk about is the Banking for All Act. Again, this is being picked up by a lot of, I guess, conspiracy sites, saying, hey, check out the Banking for All Act. Well, guess what? I have checked it out. I've done a lot of research into this. So when you click this link, it will come up with this, okay? Congress.gov, and this is the actual act. This is the Banking for All Act. So the way I found this was that a whole bunch of people kept sending me messages, YouTube links, hey, watch this video, and this video all kept referencing that the big changes happening in January 2021, yada yada yada, and no one was disclosing any citations, any sources. And eventually I got through to it that the Banking for All Act, which you can see here, is the thing that stemmed a lot of hysteria. Now, I didn't have much knowledge on how US politics works, so I just want to give a big shout out to Rob Taylor. He's an old chum of mine. So I basically, so this was 40, so not long ago, I said, hey, anyone here savvy with blah blah blah, like I just wanted to ask a few questions, and I've been down a bit of a rabbit hole, and Rob Taylor, who is an ex-solicitor and all-round good bloke really, basically made this massive post explaining how the US, Congress and stuff works. So in a nutshell, what happens is that, acts and bills get issued or introduced all of the time, but because, they don't have overall power, there's no one clear power in the US government, so both sides, a bit like Labour and Conservative over here, they're always bashing each other's bills and go, no. And here's so introduce, pass Senate, passed House to President, became law. That's the process it has to follow. And it can go all the way up to the President, and the President go, nah, and it will send it all the way back. And all of that takes time. So the reason I'm not getting too excited about this is because, like, I don't need to know much about US law to sort of have an understanding why it's very unlikely to happen. I would say it won't happen in the time frames. We'll go through this. Because is the Fed talking about it? Nope. What's the bond market doing? Like, are interest rates moving as a result of what we're going to see in the bond market? Nope. What else is happening? So, are the banks, have any of the central banks or even the main banks even talked about this? Bear in mind, this act should be enforced by the 1st of Jan, so like in a couple of months. No, have big businesses or even small businesses been given a heads up on how to cope with a bi-currency, as in two currencies? It's not going to happen. So if we look into this, I'll quickly scroll through it. Okay, so I'll read out the main bit. So the bill is to require member banks, so just when it says member banks, just the main banks in the US, let's just say, to pass through digital wallets for certain persons and for other purposes. Okay, so basically what this basically means is that, you'll see further on, is that every person, every business, every entity in the US will be given a digital wallet. Okay, so not a crypto wallet, just a digital currency wallet, for the payway of, this, aka the Federal Reserve coin or the US digital dollar. Okay, and every man, woman, and child, business, entity will be given a digital wallet for the digital dollar. So this is what the Banking for All Act is all about. So digital dollars, yeah, talked about that. Digital wallets, yeah. Member bank. Term member bank means any national bank, state bank or trust company which has become a member of one of the reserve banks created by the Fed. Pass-through digital dollar wallets. The term pass-through digital dollar wallets means a digital wallet or account maintained by a member bank. So, for example, if you're with Barclays, you will have, so Barclays will give you a digital wallet. So it'll be on behalf, it could be a Barclays digital wallet on behalf of any person, entitling that person to a pro rata share of a pooled reserve balance that the member bank maintains at any Federal Reserve bank. So basically what's happening is that what they're trying to say is that the Federal Reserve will create Fed coin or digidollar. Let's call it digidollar. They'll create digidollar, and obviously in order to have digidollar, everyone needs a wallet. So they go to all the main banks and go, right, you currently got normal dollar accounts in your account, but I also want you to give, the Fed will want them to give everyone a digital dollar, okay? And there'll be a certain amount of digidollars that are just plucked out of thin air, $1 trillion of digidollars. And so they'll then spread all that. And what will most likely happen when they do that is that they'll probably destroy normal currency and issue new currency at the same time. But that's a whole other topic. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, they're going to use post offices for people that don't have bank accounts. There's a huge amount of people in the US that don't have bank accounts, so they're going to make it accessible by the post office. And it basically goes on and on and on and on and on about this. I mean, it's not a long read. This is a very short read. But if we can find it, the key thing is each member. I should have highlighted it previously. Here we go. In general, all Federal Reserve banks shall, not later than the 1st of January 2021, make digital wallets available to all residents and citizens of the United States and to businesses domiciled in the US. So that is one hefty timeline. This was introduced, I think, in March. Now, could they bring it out by January? I think it's unlikely, unless they've been doing huge amounts of work behind the scenes for digi-wallets, which they probably have, but it's one hell of a task to get it done by January. So do I think digi-wallets are inbound? Yes. By the 1st of January? Hell no. I doubt the bill will even be passed by the 1st of January, and bits of this will change, no doubt. For both parties to agree on something like this, that they'll both have to agree on it, and they'll want their terms and conditions, etc. So that's basically the Banking for All Act, and that has spurred a lot of crazy YouTube videos. So yeah, let's move on, I guess. That's the Banking for All Act. Now, the Great Reset. So this is this is where it gets wacky. Okay, if I could, I'll leave my tin hat on the floor. I want to. I've had this I've had this theory of war for a long time now, and the way I have built this theory, I guess this concept, this way of thinking around war, is just due to a sheer number of books that I've read. It's nothing special, and I'm a student of history, mainly the history of money. And when you study the history of money, you'll see that money is in everything. Every part of human history, there is money right there at the center. Normally the one financing shit or financing good stuff, but it's always there. So if you learn how to follow the money, it really does illuminate what the truth is, okay? So I've written this really long article, which I'll probably post later on, not today, but another day, called The Evolution and Sophistication of War. And I'm going to slowly walk you through this, because in order to fully understand the World Economic Forum Great Reset, / and IMF Great Reset, you have to understand this evolution of war. So the key word there is evolution, because humans, if we do things over a long period of time, we tend to improve, okay? Humans are like kids playing a computer game, or adults playing a computer game. If I'm doing something which I like doing, I'll get good at it. I'll practice it, I'll Google stuff, I'll get better. And so, guess what? Humans have been doing war for a hell of a long time. And the way that war is conducted and operated and conceived even has evolved to the point where the public these days, in my opinion, have no freaking clue what war really is these days. So, let's look at phase 1. So, I'm going to take it right to the beginning. So, we quickly realised, as humans, back in, hundreds of thousands of years, that, we're not in an abundant world. Back then, we were nomadic people, humans versus Neanderthals, all that sort of stuff. And we realised that you had to sort of kill other tribes, other families to protect your own family. Or some humans or Neanderthals realised that, I want what they have. They won't give it to me. So what do? I bonk them on the head and I take it. And that's how it first started. And then if you fast forward to, over the last, let's say, 10,000 years, where, officially humans have, been around 10,000 years, or modern humans, so to speak. I think it's a lot longer than that if you listen to, the work of Graham Hancock, who's got some great stuff out there. But anyway, so long story short, militia is formed. So we developed language over time, and a language allows us to organize, and that's one of the key differences between humans and other animals. Like, we can self-organize with high resolution compared to other animals. Like wolves, they'll howl, and then another one will howl, and then they'll just find each other by smell and sound. Whereas we can, I can drop a pin on Google in my WhatsApp. Here I am, and you can find me. So language has helped. So we form militia, okay? And then we've basically, and so the war is physical. So I'm going to take my little mob of hitmen, I'm going to go and sack that church, or, steal land, or whatever it may be. The feudal times. And so the war arena, so to speak, was local. And that happened for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And then we sort of upgraded ourselves. So phase 2 is where, we can, if you just look at the map of Europe over the last 1,000 years, the borders do not stay still. Hell, the borders are not staying still right now. They're constantly moving because of militias, etc. And eventually, once we got to a certain sophistication, what you see is that all of the mini nations or regions, they just evaporate. And then all of a sudden, there's massive countries. So you have like France, Spain, England, Germany. It's like you have all these massive, I guess Rome, or the Romans sort of started, that big old expansion. But yeah, so we self-organize into armies, and we're like, hey, we want their stuff. Okay, we're going to invade their country and take their stuff. So again, it's very physical. Lots of people die. So, and I've put here regional, because I guess it is regional. It's like, it's normally neighbouring countries, UK versus France, or etc. We understand. I think everyone understands war. This is pretty much what everyone thinks war is these days. It's just armies invading shit. Now, this is where it gets a bit crazy, because you have to understand that war is messy, and it's also grossly inefficient, because what happens, and it's inefficient in terms of money, time, and human life, obviously. So when, let's say I'm a country and I invade another country, even if I win, even if I literally dicked all over them, sorry, I need to change my vocabulary, it's quite crude. Even if I just sort of sailed into this new country and occupied this new country, and I won the war in a matter of days, okay? So I'm the great victor here. And I'm like, right, I want that oil well, I want that hydroelectric dam, you know, I'm in there, I'm occupying it, and all of a sudden I'm taking all their food, resources, gold, etc. But that's not the end of the war, because it's very messy, because yes, you're in their country, you're occupying a new country, but the public hates you because you're invading their country. They may conform and obey you, but that's only out of fear. So yeah, it's very short-lived. So I may occupy a country and have my way with it and whatever, but over time, what tends to happen is that there'll be uprisings, rebels, the resistance, etc. I mean, hell, yeah, just look at Germany, like overextending themselves in World War II. The people of France didn't like the Germans, but they complied with them because they'd be shot otherwise. But then resistance forms. So, and even if, you know, they can squash the resistance, you know, they have to commandeer lots of businesses, and basically it's a huge logistical nightmare, invading country, stealing everything, and staying there, and withstanding any, you know, rebellions, etc. So humans, no doubt, we have gone, I see that model, it's worked for thousands of years, there must be a smarter way around it. And guess what? They did. And so I'm going to go sideways here. I don't want to reveal the next bit. So I want to, one book which I highly recommend everyone should read. In fact, I'm not going to write it. I'm just going to type it because it'll be quicker. Is if you go to, I would say Audible. Go to Audible. Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins. So this is a whistleblower. Okay. So find this book. It's absolutely fascinating. Here we go. And that's what it looks like. Try and get the revised edition, the one which is, yeah, you know, the newest version, and that will blow your socks off mentally. That will mentally blow your socks off. If you literally can't be asked to read, like these days, if I can't be asked to read a book, I'll find a YouTube interview by the author, and normally in the space of an hour, you get the whole gist of the book. And this, I read this a long time ago, but it really changed the way I think about the world. So what happens these days is, so we got phase 2 war, which I explained, and it's messy, okay? So here's the clever way. So let's say I'm over here, okay? And I want another country. So let's just say, you know, there's another country over here. Now, instead of sending my armies and troops and soldiers all over here and getting quite messy, what I could actually do is let's say I have a really strong and powerful bank. Let's just call it the Federal Reserve. Okay, let's just say I'm a Yank. And let's just say, it's not my terminology, tin pot country. Okay, this is probably a very un-PC term. Let's just say that this is a tin pot country. So the way that we've evolved is that I would then send a team of people into this country, okay? And these people will be economists, analysts, bankers, surveyors, people with lots of letters after their name, engineers, etc. And what they would do is they'd come up with a massive survey and report of this country. And what they would then do, they'll probably send it back home, and then my Minister of Affairs or whatever will contact the king, the dictator. Let's say it's a dictator. I can't draw. And say, hey, thanks for allowing us into your country. We've done a full survey of your country, and you've got so much potential. If you put a dam over here, you put some power lines over here, skip 2G, 3G, just go straight to 4G, help 5G. If you had loads of motorways going up and down, massive airports, just subways, like everything, just think of any infrastructural development you can think of a country that a developing country would need, and it'll be on this report. And they'll say, so our estimates they'll probably get a third party, you know, a bank or company or NGO, non-government organization to go, yeah, if you got all of this stuff, your GDP would go up by 1 billion%. You know, and as a result, your population will love you. So let's just say love will go up for you. And because your population will love you for, you know, modernizing your country, you're going to stay in power for a lot longer, less likely of being overrun. But it's going to cost you, no, let's just make it a nice, easy $100 billion. Okay? Just a little project. $100 billion. This guy goes, I don't have $100 billion. I like what you're saying. I like, you know, extra GDP, blah, 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 but I don't have it. And they go, and then I'll go, don't worry, mate, I've got you covered. I'm good friends with my bank, the Federal Reserve, and they've already pre-authorized a loan. So the Federal Reserve has said, yeah, they're happy to loan you $100 billion. And what we can do is that, you know, actually, you get the $100 billion. There'll be obviously an APR, whatever. You keep, you know, let's say $1 billion as a nice golden handshake backhand, and then you can then deploy $99 billion into your country to build roads, dams, infrastructure, etc., etc. Now, this tin pot country dictator is going to be like, they may negotiate, and I can even say, oh yeah, as part of that, we'll chuck over a couple of F-15s for you or whatever. Have some military equipment, and I'll train up your troops. I'll send in the Delta Force and SEALs to come and train your troops, whatever. And so we'll sweet talk them. And even if he says no, what has happened in the past is that if they do say no, so best case scenario, this guy says yes, okay? And then we move on. We'll come on to moving on. If this person says no, guess what we do? We start a bit of an uprising. We try and topple this person. We then put a new king in, like a new puppet king, and this person will then say yes. We'll just put a yes man in, and then it all happens. So they tried to do that at Bay of Pigs in Cuba. They've done it in Libya. There's so many countries they've done. This is not conspiracy stuff. Now I will tell you what I think is subjective conspiracy type stuff. This is not. This is true. This has happened so many times. Okay, so that's what happened. So bad things happen if someone doesn't agree and they just get replaced. The CIA have been doing that in South America for donkey's years now. So let's just say that this dictator, I can't draw, says yes. Yeah, let's do it. I'll get $1 billion as a nice backhander. Everyone will love me. Let's frickin' do it. And then they go, okay, sweet. This loan is approved, but this is a loan with caveats. And the caveat here is that there will be preferred suppliers, or mandated suppliers, basically. So the money, the $99 billion, never hits the economy, never hits the country. That money never goes over here. So what actually happens is that, let's just say there's contractors. Let's just tidy this up a bit. Oh, by the way, the loan will be done with an APR that looks promising, but we know they'll never be able to pay it off, okay? Because this is like giving a homeless person £10,000. They're not going to use it wisely in most cases. God, I'm being very un-PC today. So, okay, let's say this is a massive group of contractors, military contractors, industrial contractors. Just think Serco, okay? So what actually happens, this $99 billion doesn't go into the country. It goes straight into the contractors' pockets, okay? So this is new warfare. So what happens is we now get all of the perks of invading a country, because we'll get nice sweet deals, shipping lanes, or whatever, what all the nice perks that war typically used to give us. But also, this country is now 100 billion in debt plus interest. Don't forget the interest. And that $99 billion never hits a country. It stays in my country. Let's say I'm in the US. It stays in the US. So what happens? This loan, so dictator A, has actually boosted my GDP. So the GDP of my country goes up by, let's call it $100 billion, or $99 billion, just to keep the maths nice and easy. I'm obviously simplifying this whole explanation. So my GDP is like, cheers mate, and this country is now indebted to me, okay? And part of the, it may be like at the next UN Council meeting or UN meeting, you have to vote for my thing, or, there's all sorts of deals going on behind the scenes. Henry Kissinger was an absolute expert all of this. So, but guess what? Eventually what happens is this person dies or whatever, or the country just can't pay it back. So there are debentures on everything. So a debenture is basically like a charge on a house. So like if I were to sell my business, if I was to sell my business and I do it over a period of time, I probably get a lump sum of money, and then the remaining amount spread over some time. But if they fail those payments, I can exercise the debenture and get the business back. So in fact, I've done that already. I did it last year. Anyway, so worst case that happens is that this guy will actually just piss up all the money out of the wall. I know he doesn't get it, but these contractors will take their sweet time because, let's say they're building a road structure, and the quoted term was $20 billion. Well, guess what? And it was supposed to be delivered in 5 years. You can probably guess what happens. Shit. Yeah, there's some issues. So this project now turns into like a 15-year project, and it's probably gone from a $20 billion cost, and it's now probably actually $100 billion because Serco or any other contractor is not incentivized to complete it by a set deadline. And so all of these delays, they're pot committed. They're shit, okay, I'm going to have to get another loan from the Fed, which then it's just a big loan shark. So, so that is modern day war, boys and girls, and we've been doing it for a long time. So at least from the 1950s onwards, at least. This is how war is conducted. And hot wars these days are just to keep the military contractors happy. So hopefully you can understand what I mean by banks and NGOs. So actually what happens is the International Monetary Fund tends to fund a lot of this sort of stuff, or the Bank of England or the Federal Reserve. But read that book, The Confessions of an Economic Hitman. It's illuminating. So yeah, it's non-physical. And so this way you can invade a country, steal everything, loan them credit, because no money is actually really transferred, and they're indebted to you via interest, and the projects will be way more expensive than you quoted, so they're pot committed. You get everything, and guess what? You are the saving nation. You're the big friendly giant that comes in to try and help the business, help the country by building all this cool shit. So no one actually hates you. And what ends up happening is that the dictator becomes hated when shit hits the fan. It's beautiful. So yeah, it's continental, so it's between nations. So the US has done this to a lot of African nations, South America, all over during from the 60s onwards, and more recently they've been doing it into Middle Eastern countries, or trying to do it in Middle Eastern countries. Libya is a prime example. Libya supposedly had rebels that rised up, and guess what happened the day after Gaddafi died? They got a $200 billion loan from the Fed. Farmers are not that sophisticated to, all of a sudden set up a central bank. Libya didn't have a central bank, by the way. They set one up and got a $200 billion loan. So that's 3. Now, phase 4 is banks and NGOs, mainly NGOs, still non-physical, but it's the global public. So this is where so number 3 was pure fact, okay? This is truth. This is where it may seem I'm sort of jumping off that board. So I'm sort of guiding along this sort of ramp, and then all of a sudden I'm now going to jump off it, and you may not be inclined to believe it or want to believe it. So Yeah, so that's so number 4, and you'll see. So that background will really help understand the Great Economic Reset. So, where did it all start? It started with this dude, Klaus Schwab. He's the founder of the World Economic Forum, and the World Economic Forum, the way I sort of picture it in my head, understand it, is it's basically like an old boys club of all the powerful leaders. They all meet up every now and again at Davos and whatnot, and they try and think, what could we do? How can we, I used to think the WEF, the World Economic Forum, was, a force of good. But these days, the more I dig into them, I don't think so. I guess in the past, I sort of fell for their marketing. Now, when you look at a lot of their marketing, it's quite righteous. It's not righteous, probably not the word. It's like, we want a better world, blah blah blah, green energy, all that sort of stuff. And I was like, nice. But when you go down this rabbit hole, and I'm hoping I have prodded you to at least explore one rabbit hole. There's a whole bunch of rabbit holes here. Yeah, I just want you to watch this video. So if you click this link, it opens up this page over here. The time for a great reset. Where is the video? In fact, I knew that would be a problem. So what I've done is stand by. I actually downloaded the video because I knew I'd have trouble finding it, and now having said that, I can't even find the video that I downloaded. Stand by. Here we go. So here, I found it. So if you go to the World Economic Forum's YouTube, in fact, I'm going to subscribe because I want to be notified of all the propaganda it puts out. So yeah, we're going to skip through parts of this, but it's worth watching. Here we go. Let's do this.
Now is the historical moment, the time, not only to fight the real virus, but to shape the system.
We have a unique but rapidly shrinking window of opportunity to learn lessons and reset ourselves on a more sustainable path. It is an opportunity we have never had before and may never have again. So we must use all the levers we have at our disposal, knowing that each and every one of us has a vital role to play.
Now is the time to think what history would say about this crisis. And now is the time for all of us to define our own role. What is it that would make it so that history would look at this crisis as the great opportunity for reset?
The Great Reset is a welcome recognition that this human tragedy must be a wake-up call. It is imperative that we reimagine, rebuild, redesign, reinvigorate and rebalance our world. Rebalancing investment, harnessing science and technology, and advancing the transition to net zero emissions, all elements of the Great Reset, are fundamental to building the future we need.
The world's problems fit on three sides of a triangle. It's one versus many, man versus nature, and the unfortunate foundation is long-term versus short-term.
I want to focus on this, on Charles.
We will now start quite a high number of task forces to look at all the different issues, and we will present all those ideas to the people assembled in Davos. But at the same time, we will make Davos very different, very open, to ensure that we do not fall back to old recipes, but that we really look at forward-oriented solutions.
Young entrepreneurs, especially from developing countries that are there and can solve the right problem, can really step up and
It's a 5-minute video, but yeah.
but also create change.
We have to live up to the expectations which we have created, and we will do so.
That'll give you a gist of, they're sort of signaling what's going to happen. And then when you go to their main website, which is this one here, we then just bring this through. Again, the link will be in this video. Please read it, because some of it is quite interesting. Again, I have to apologize massively because I should have highlighted a lot highlighted key things here, which I can't quite find. I've made some just mental notes. So long story short, this article is saying that COVID is, a trigger. It's an opportunity to change things. I like the way how he says opportunity, and that massive change needs to happen. Populations have overwhelmingly shown a willingness to make sacrifices for the sake of healthcare and other essential workers in vulnerable populations, such as elderly. So I guess this is why I used to like the WEF, because it said some good stuff, like things that people secretly want to believe, I guess. And then it gets a bit nuts. So the Great Reset agenda would have three main components. The first would steer the market towards fairer outcomes. To this end, government should improve coordination, for example, in tax, regulatory and fiscal policy. This basically means more control. The government will be doing more control. So how do you improve coordination in tax, for example? Well, what you do is you create a digital currency, you get rid of cash completely, then you have full optics, and then you can tax people way more efficiently. Same with regulatory and fiscal. This is dodgy stuff when you really look into it. Upgrade trade rates, create stakeholder economy. So I'm still looking. This is the bit that does confuse me and creates the conditions for a stakeholder economy. Long story short, when you really get into this, it feels like socialism is about to spread across the world. In fact, socialism has already spread across the world. Modern day economics is socialism. People look up to this bloke called John Maynard Keynes, who is a political economics advisor to the UK government. What was it, 70 odd years ago? My maths is shit, and he was like a secret socialist at heart. Have you ever realised, every time there's a global catastrophe or a massive company goes bust, what happens? Bailouts. Virgin, Atlantic, not just Virgin, loads of companies out there are going bust right now. Massive household names, and guess what's happening? They're being bailed out. A real free market would just let the bad, defunct, inefficient companies die, and it would then be and then give space for new, efficient and streamlined companies to come around. But yeah, so I guess in the whole of Wall Street, they rely on this socialism, that every 10 years there's a massive collapse and the bankers get bailed out. And basically, it's capitalism until it doesn't work, and then socialism comes in to save the day. And what this whole Great Reset is a massive blanket of socialism coming to basically, it's not nice. It's basically the death of the middle class. This is really it. This is massive acts getting rid of the middle class. What happens with socialism is, or typically, especially after this, if this Great Reset happens, what will happen is that you'll have extremely poor that will be maybe uplifted a bit, but they'll be like sheep, because they'll be controlled up the yin yang. There'll be no middle class because I guess most of the populace will just again be another cattle of sheeple, I guess. And then they'll have extreme elite, extremely wealthy. That wealth poor divide will just expand. Okay, the second component of the Great Reset agenda will be to ensure that investments advance shared goals such as equality and sustainability. Okay. Rather than using these funds, as well as investments from private entities and pension funds to fill the cracks in the old system, we should use them to create a new one that is more resilient, equitable, and sustainable in the long run. This means, for example, building green urban infrastructure and creating incentives for industries to improve their track record, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you probably don't get it yet, but this is the one first alarm that, if we go back to this, what I'm basically getting at is phase 4 is what you do is you create massive projects that everyone gets behind on because they're like, yes, green project, let's do it. It's non-physical, but who pays for it? The IMF pays for it. The International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, they pay for it. And where does this money come from? Now they pluck it out their arse. It's money, free money, well, not free money. It's money that they just create out of thin air. But there's always a debt, and it's the global public that will pay that debt. Now it may not be money, but it'll be in the form of loss of rights. It'll be your civil liberties just stripped, bare naked. It will be bagged and tagged, and this is a little sort of heads up. Third and final priority is the Great Reset agenda is harness innovations of the fourth industrial revolution. Okay, so this is basically, and a lot of these massive projects, they're going to spur huge, there's going to be a massive huge explosion of tech. Okay, so just imagine a world where there are, continual lockdowns and all that sort of stuff, like virtual reality and augmented reality. I mean, home entertainment in that field is going to go through the roof. There's all sorts of things going on here, but so there's going to be a massive tech revolution. So that is a good thing, but it is also a bad thing. Blah, 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 during the crisis, So they're saying that during the COVID lockdowns, we all did stuff, so imagine what could be possible if similar concerted efforts were made in every sector. So, and then they come with the most confusing graphic. So I've tried to, where is it? Here we go. So this is their I guess the Great Reset, and as you can expect, it's full of terminology which really obfuscates what's actually going on. Like, to be honest, hands up, I don't really have a clue what's going on in this chart or this spiral graph type thing. So like, and it's politician language basically. It's I'm going to write a lot and say a lot, and it actually means jack shit. Like shaping the economic recovery. Okay, yeah, fine. What does that mean? Gender parity. Okay. What else does this link to? Taxation. Like, obviously, with each of these little ones, there's going to be a huge, pages of materials behind it, and new laws and bills and acts and all that sort of stuff. But it's hard. So we sort of harnessing the fourth industrial revolution. Cool. Go big on tech. Yeah, we get that. 5G, all drones, all that sort of stuff. So that we can sort of get our heads around that. Strengthening regional development. Yeah, a lot of these are just rather hard to. What is this? Agile governance. Okay, so down here, agile governance. I mean, another way to look at agile governance is basically consolidation. So how do you produce a more agile government? You have less branches, so to speak, less civil servants, less branches out there. So effectively what this really means is, what I see happening is that control will be relinquished, as in sovereign control will be relinquished, and it'll be some fat cat in Brussels that controls everything. So effectively, going back to what I said, the fourth evolution of war, it's banks and NGOs, mainly the World Economic Forum, the IMF, the World Bank, doing all of this type of shizzle, but on the world public. And what will end up happening is that these big boys will effectively control everything. So if you look at some of the websites, they always talk about of collating and organizing the world's information, collating and organizing the world's money, collating and organizing the world's data, as an IP, like, all that sort of stuff. And so they'll effectively be the big puppeteers in the end. So yeah, let's not waste any more time on this, because I honestly don't understand most of it. I can guess, and that's all we can do at the end of the day. Like, global governance, yeah. So, and this is where I guess the whole sort of people going, I told you the Illuminati work, because they're all about one world government, one world money, one world thing. And the thing is, I have to admit, we're tracking that way. If the IMF Great Reset happens, we are going towards one world government, one world army, one world everything. And the currency is going to be the first one. Now, this is where I think I'm probably going to lose a lot of you. How many? Okay, there's a few of us here. And I apologise, but like I always get asked, what do I see happening? You know, and I never know what to say because I don't want. So I guess I'm coming out of the closet. I am coming out of the closet. In fact, I need my hat. This is big shit. All right, get my conspiracy beret on. How do I look? So this is my. In fact, we got through most of this in an hour, so this bit won't take long. Right. How do I look? I can't even see a video, but it doesn't matter. Here are my Siam's censored. These are censored actually. Tin hat forecast. I just saw James conspiratorial Peter Pan. I'll take that. Whoops. Yeah. Right. This is the first bit. Okay, by the way, everything I'm about to say is in no particular order. I see everything in this list I'm about to show you happening at some point over the next 5 years, maybe 10 years. And some may happen before or whatever, but obviously I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know when things are going to happen. And I would say, I have a high confidence that 60-70% of everything I'm about to show you will happen. But I don't know when. So here we go. Let's lose some fans here. COVID camps, yeah, so we're going to have COVID camps, like, for people that don't want to test, they can't test, or that they're infected, or whatever. We're going to have COVID camps, just like Jew camps in Germany, 1930s and whatnot. Daily PCR testing, like when you see all, like, this absolute ridiculousness in the news, like Boris doing, was it Operation Moonshot, where he's going to spend £100 billion in daily in PCR test kits, and he said, I think one article I read is that he can't imagine a Christmas without daily testing involved or something like that. It's just nuts. What could you spend for £100 billion? That's how many nurses for the next 10 years? Like how many doctors and nurses and health professionals? Like you could do. There's all sorts of stuff there. Now, the thing is, who's financing this? Where are they getting? So where has the UK government got that initial £350 billion for the first lockdown, etc.? All the $100 billion for this stupid PCR testing stuff, like daily testing, all that. Like, we can't afford that. The UK is already running, over 100% GDP, debt to GDP. So if you just go to, I always type in US debt clock, and then go to the world debt clock. Oh, I clicked the wrong one. Sorry. And if you then go to world debt clocks, like we are the pauper on the streets. We are, look, our public debt to GDP ratio is 101%. External debt to GDP ratio, 286%. We are literally the worst country, like one of the worst countries in the world when it comes to external debt to GDP ratio. And who's that debt to? Well, not that one, this one. That debt is to the IMF predominantly. So we're just getting further down the arseholes of the IMF and World Bank with every new silly thing that they do. COVID passport, I do believe we're not going to have our liberties back, so to speak, or free movement and travel until you have some sort of, you've either daily tested or you've had the vaccine and you can prove it and you're now free to do whatever you want. More lockdowns coming. I do see another lockdown coming, like another national lockdown is inevitable. I'll see vaccine deaths when that comes around. I mean, hell, there's already tests, people dying from vaccine deaths, but that's going to be covered up. So I don't see the COVID vaccine being mandatory, but the way they get around that is that, you don't have to have it, but you're pretty much incapable of doing anything without it. So imagine, not many people, I'm surprised how many people don't know this. Like, you cannot be a citizen in China, like, and act and operate like a normal person in China if you don't have a mobile phone. Everything in China is dictated around your mobile phone. You dating, insurance, paying, like it's very hard to find actual cash in China. It's all done electronically. It's like where we're heading, where the West is heading, is where China is right now with their social crediting score and all that sort of stuff. it won't be mandatory, but unless you have a COVID vaccine with the passport or whatever, your lifestyle will be dramatically hindered without it. I do reckon there's going to be COVID-21 or whatever they want to call it, or some sort of bacterial superbug that, some sort of mutation over the next, next year or, over the next few years. There's going to be something. So, and with a much higher infection and fatality rate. So COVID, I think we've all seen the memes of, COVID has a 99.8% survival rate, etc. But I do think probably, I think they're just buttering us up for the next superbug, which really is quite deadly. So I see, so that's that sort of stuff. I've tried to bulk these up into little sections. Right, totally cashless society. I've made so many videos on this. Just watch the last macrometrics video on my YouTube channel. God, I've got so many tabs open, it's ridiculous. If you go to, there's new measures. Yeah, macrometrics 16. Just watch that. I sort of touch on the cashless bit. I don't want to talk about it today. And so what we'll see is individual pockets around the world becoming totally cashless. Scandinavia is pretty much there already. Then it'll be like UK, US, and then eventually it'll be the G20, then the UN. They're going to slowly bring it out. There'll be a rapid introduction of digital currencies by the main central banks. So you have digital sterling, digital dollar, digital euro. They're digi yuan. They're already doing it. China's actually leading the field in this sense. And there'll be some sort, obviously there's going to, throughout all of this, the markets are going to be capitulating, and eventually things are going to be desperate. So I think they'll bring out some sort of decaying UBI, as in universal basic income. So once digi currencies are out there and they have the ability to just flood, just credit people's wallets like that. In order to get MV going, again, if you need to watch my macrometrics videos if you're not familiar with money velocity. But velocity thread, here we go. Come on, internet. Here we go. Here, yeah. So basically, there is no economic recovery until MV gets way back up here, and we're plummeting to 1. And again, previous videos show you how deadly a ratio of 1 is, and we're pretty much on it. So in order to spike MV, the velocity of cash flow or velocity of currency, they're going to have to bring out a UBI, but it'll be a decaying one, so it will have a time limit on. So it'll be like, hey, everyone gets £400 a month for free for doing nothing, but it expires in 30 days' time. So it's use it or lose it. Now, if you get 500 quid or 400 quid from the government, it becomes voided in 30 days, you're going to freaking spend it. That's the only way they can kickstart the economy after so many businesses have gone bust, people have been made redundant, etc. And then eventually, I think everything will be in some sort of ID chip. There'll be some sort of implant. It'll be like a little pill that I don't know. And it'll have your passport, your COVID passport, your bank account, as in your digi sterling wallet. And then, I think only then you'll be free to move country to country without being prodded up the yin-yang. So I guess globally, global economic crash of epic proportions is coming. The IMF are hinting it. If we look at the IMF, this speech is
I first want to thank
eerie. This is the managing director of the IMF. Thankfully, this whole this page has actually put the transcript out here, but it's eerie. Everything I've said so far, hell, they're loving John Maynard Keynes, who, Keynesian economics has been proven a long time ago that it just doesn't work, but we're still, professors and economists are all still using Keynesian economics, which is just ridiculous. So they're basically saying we're on the brink of another Bretton Woods. So in 1944, we had the Bretton Woods system where they disbanded a bimetallic currency system. So the dollar and the pound were backed by gold, set at $35 an ounce. The dollar was backed by gold at $35 an ounce, and the pound was backed by the dollar, effectively. So they're basically saying, this whole article is basically saying, heads up, shit's gonna hit the fan and things are gonna happen. We've seen 12 trillion of fiscal actions. Well, who has provided that? The IMF. So yes, $12 trillion has been spent, but that's with interest. Who's the interest owed to? The IMF. The IMF and the World Bank will be owning everything by the end of all this. What was it? So yeah, 3 imperatives. So first, right economic policies. Whatever. Debt transparency and enhanced creditor coordination. Yeah, I've talked about that before. The second one, what was the second one gone? Firstly, okay, where's the second one? There's 2. I've lost the second one. I think I'm scrolling too fast. 3 imperatives. The first, okay, it doesn't matter. This link will be in, read this anyway. Yeah, and climate change. So, in fact, I'll talk about that in a second. So, it's chilling. For me, it's chilling, at least. Just because I can see through some of the stuff. Just because I know how economics works, like as in how the world financial system works, at least. So during all of this, there's going to be huge supply chain breakdowns globally, and what that'll mean, like when there's COVID-21 or whatever, and there's new lockdowns, etc. Like the supply chain squeeze breakdowns we had were huge. If you look at the Chinese PMI, the Purchasing Managers Index, it just plummeted. It just went vertically down, and so that meant that the products like stock, just as in products, things, stuff, just vanished not because everyone's trying to buy them, that as well, but supply disappeared. So you'll see squeezes everywhere, and I mean, hell, that will actually propel a lot of prices for some things. Things will just suddenly become quite rare because supply chain breakdowns. There'll be mass riots, and therefore lots of countries will probably deploy their military into the streets for order. More lockdowns, helicopter money, and then UBI, or maybe the same thing, helicopter money. I think UBI will be the helicopter money. So that's that bit. Okay, yeah, so here we go. IMF, World Bank comes and bails us out of all of this mess that we'll experience, all the lockdowns or whatever, with mass loans. And they won't do it through us individually. It will be banks getting loans from the IMF, but it's mainly countries. So like, how do you control people? Like if I was to invade another country, like it's going to going back to that war analogy, the easiest way to control the inhabitants of another country that I want to invade is I just need to control the government. I control the government, I control their people. And how are our governments going to be controlled? It's by, every government will be in debt, a debt slave to the IMF and World Bank. And they'll do, so it'll be pretty sneaky how they do that. So they'll do it via how I've explained, but they'll also do it via debt jubilees. So they'll be like, hey, country, you're in all sorts of debt to me. I'm just going to wipe that clear. But in return of having a debt forgiveness or a debt jubilee, I need some sort of collateral for that. If I'm going to wipe out your 2 trillion debt, I need to take assets as collateral. So all of a sudden, the IMF will then own huge chunks of a country. It will own the government. It will own the ports, the airports, the roads, the energy networks, and they'll do that in order to forsake their debt. So yeah, massive caveats with debt forgiveness, but yeah, massive caveats with debt forgiveness. And I think it may even come down to the personal Joe on the street, the everyday person like you and I. There may be some form of debt forgiveness with massive caveats. I don't know what those caveats are. I can only guess. I guess, hell, this whole video is, guessing. And maybe forfeited debt / assets will be collateral for these loans. Yeah, I just mentioned that. So here's the thing. This is what I think will be the greatest travesty out of all of this. I really do. I'm big for a green revolution. I am. I really am. We have to move off fossil fuels. But what is likely going to happen is like, hey, mass green energy projects, and everyone went, yeah, and finally we're getting rid of gasoline and all that sort of stuff. But who's going to build out the freaking infrastructure? It's going to be built out by the very companies that are balls deep in the fossil fuel network. Serco. God, I'm going to get a cease and desist from Serco at this rate. So yeah, they'll be built out by the main fossil fuel companies that are doing the thing. So a lot of people are like saying, yeah, BP, Shell, all these energy companies are going to go bust and etc. And I think they're not. I actually think they're going to end up being some of the most profitable businesses on the planet. Because what will happen is, like, let's take BP, right? BP, we think of it as like a petrol station down the road or whatever, or yeah, it's an oil company, okay? But people don't have a freaking clue how vast a company like BP is. Not in terms of, its GDP, or not GDP, I mean, hell, it could be the size of a mini country, but not in terms of its revenue, etc. But the sheer amount of stuff it has in terms of land, assets, people, and technology. So BP isn't just an oil company, it's a drilling company, it's a mining company, it's an exploratory company, it has shipping, it has haulage, logistics, warehouses, it has all of those things in the right places. I'm getting a call from New York at the moment. Shall I... One sec. Hello? No? Bye. I get loads of prank calls. I should probably stop answering them. So, yeah. So what will happen is we'll probably see a day where BP goes, "Oh no, I'm so sorry. Sorry for being a bad company and being, drilling all of this oil, blah blah blah. We're going to turn a new leaf now, and we're going to build loads of wind farms, loads of solar panels, blah blah blah. Please forgive us." Yeah, and they'll get all the contracts. The IMF will go, right, we need a $1 trillion solar plant somewhere in Africa, etc. And everyone go, yes, we 100% do. One solar plant can power all of Africa, blah, blah, blah. And then Serco will get like £100 billion loan. Not loan, contract to do it. I think that is going to be the biggest FU out of all of this. No one, I don't see anyone talking about that. Because they're the ones that can actually build this stuff. Like, if you look at some of the people worrying about global warming, etc., like, there's a growing group of scientists are saying that the only way to stop, see the water level rising, etc., they want to build an underwater wall around the North and South Pole. Like, it's just insane. And they're saying it's going to cost trillions and trillions, or to put 10 million pumps around Greenland to try and refreeze it, and pump seawater onto the ice, onto the land, and then refreeze Greenland. And all of these projects that they're coming up with are trillions and trillions and trillions. And these oil companies, it'll be an oil company operating through a shell company, like a new facilities management company. Same shit, different frock. So I think that's it. Yeah, I didn't want this to be like a 2-hour thing. I've sped through this. If you think far less of me now, fine. If this means I've detrimented the message that I do in my other videos, I guess it's fine. I've lost friends talking about this shit. I really have. I've lost actually clients. I've lost people that, all of a sudden don't respect my opinion because I think of this. They think all my thoughts around this are batshit nuts. They then think, okay, maybe the stuff he's talking about when it comes to business or trading or economics or just investing full stop is also bollocks. But I think I've done well in life, in a financial sense, in a relatively short period of time, simply because I can see through a lot of the shit, which then allows me to invest in some of the stuff. So I guess I haven't seen any questions yet, but I'm anticipating. You're like, okay, Siam, you filled us with fear. What the hell is the answer? What is the answer to all of this? How can I protect myself? How can I, do all of that? And I think, and I've actually given you the answer already in loads of other videos, especially the macrometrics video. So if we just zoom out, it's just one long line of stuff here. I think the moment we go to a full cashless society, it's too late. That is too late. So you need to start moving your cash, your assets, out of cash now. So buy gold and silver, buy Bitcoin, Ether. So you need to get it in cryptos, for sure. I mean, hell, privacy cryptocurrencies will go through the roof when they start taking, Like like Monero. Take Monero. Monero should go through the roof once a government says, yeah, we're getting rid of cash, or we're going to start taxing you at source or whatever. Like privacy cryptos are going to go through nuts because drug lords and all criminals will be forced to use crypto, especially privacy crypto, to transact, because they're not going to use the digidollar or the digisterling to do their criminal activity. They'll have to go through crypto. So guess what? Crypto is going to boom. Businesses, I would get into business. I really would. Like now, don't like. So this is where I think where I've been confused or mistaken. So I've said a lot now that I'm not doing any mergers and acquisitions for the next year or two. Mainly because the dust hasn't settled. So I have no idea what type of businesses will work in when the dust has settled. Because the dust, like, we're still getting pounded with crap at the moment, and so the dust won't settle for another couple of years or so. Then I'll be literally going full out with M&A and buying up lots of undervalued businesses that have just been hit due to mitigating circumstances. But like, as I've said in previous, I guess, wealth generation videos, I look at all of this and I try and operate in an efficient way. So a long time ago I realized that having a job is insecure, okay, because you can lose it, then you're screwed. Having a single business is insecure because stuff can happen, your business falls over, or lockdown happens, then you're screwed. This is why I haven't just stumbled into mergers and acquisitions. I haven't just stumbled into stuff. I do things very in a considered manner. So I have a group. It has 9 companies. So I run and own 9 companies, and thankfully I've managed to survive this first punch. That's literally what we've had. What we've had in 2020 is simply the opening jab. That is literally, we still got the big right hook to come, and then the shin kicks and all that sort of stuff. So in terms of my 9 companies, like, I've got a couple of businesses that are lying face down in the water and dead pretty much. Well, I wish they were. They're just a nightmare to run at the moment. I've got some businesses which are like, yeah, nothing really changed, so that's good. And I've got some businesses absolutely boomed. So you do need to get into business, even though the world seems to be going nuts, because you have to look at everything from, I guess, the first principles. Here we go. Lord Elon is always presiding over me. And Elon Musk is the biggest. I can't have a video and not say Elon Musk. Come on now. Like, he's the biggest advocate of first principle thinking. So when you look at this and you look at the world right now, it's like, yes, there's all sorts of shit, but is there money out there at the moment? Oh no, let's even be more. Okay, so typically a business is something that delivers something that someone wants or needs. Okay, that is what a business is. You are providing something that people want or need with a markup. That is all that business is. Okay, now, in this world, even now, are there things that people want and need? Yes. Okay. Are there things that people are going to buy and continue buying? Yeah, like toothpaste. We're not going to stop buying toothpaste no matter what happens out there. We're going to carry on buying shampoo. Like, I'm not saying set up a shampoo business, but you get what I'm saying. So people always have wants and needs. I've just bought... I've got all sorts of gadgets in here at the moment. Yeah, so people buy things what they want, not necessarily what they need. I buy gadgets and computers and stuff because I just want it. I'm bored, I guess. So we know that people still want and need things. Is there money out there? Are people still going to buy? Well, yes. Loads of people had grants. Yes, I guess people are screwed, but I know a lot of people have done very well over, with the grants and the handouts and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, is there great talent out there? Yeah. Like, lots of people have been made jobless. I've just put 2 job ads out there. I'm about to put a 3rd out. And I'm inundated. Like, the second I put the job ad out there, I got literally just like fire hydrant in the mouth type applicants. There's like 100 applicants. I was like, oh my god. So obviously there's huge talent out there. I know loads of people have been made redundant who are extremely talented. And I sort sometimes I wish I had a business that needed that person, because I was like, I'd love to work with you. So yeah. There's great talent out there. There's money out there. There are things that people want and need. So get into business. So that is the biggest thing. Yeah. So get into gold and silver. Get into crypto. Do start learning about business. This again is my In fact, I'm wearing the t-shirt actually. Just check out the WAP. Honestly, I make bugger all money out of this. The WAP.org. Just do the £1 trial. So I shit you not. Like, there's a 30-day trial. It's £1, and you'll learn everything about setting up business and all sorts of other stuff. What else is there? Business. Yeah, learn how to invest eventually. But I think that's it for now. Almost an hour and a half. I'm going to now have a look at the chat box. So I'm going to scroll from the top and then scroll down. So there's 54 of you still here. So thank you. I'm glad my voice hasn't grated on you yet. So let's have a look at some of the questions. Do you have some time to talk about our Lord and Savior Elon Musk? What questions do you have to have? Do you have? I can answer them for you. Lewis, 9/11 is controlled by... Yeah, okay. Again, I'm trying to reserve myself from... are there any questions? Okay, if you have any questions, pop them in the chat box, because I'll be getting down to it. Adams, like the Grand Barrington M90, yeah. James, they typically insist that building contracts go to American corporations too, just to really milk the cow. Yeah, true. Gary Nuttall, nice one. Hey, mate. Gary is a high caliber person. No different to what China does, which is why they now own an international airport in Sri Lanka, which India doesn't like, as it effectively puts a huge unsinkable Chinese aircraft carrier off their coast. Yes, it does, Gary. Spot on. The US is not the only country that does all this, economic hitmanry. Hitmanry? It's not even a word. Hitmanry. Screw it. It's now a word. Creature from Jekyll Island is a great book. Definitely read that or listen to it. It's a fat book. That dude sounds like a German Dr. Evil. Yeah, he does actually. Was it Klaus Schwab? He does sound like, yeah. Okay, Richard Hart. Yes. Yeah, Event 201, yeah. Again, that was WEF funded. So Sean O'Connor, socialism for the rich, capitalism for the poor. Yeah, it pretty much is. And it's been that way for the last 30 odd years. Question, Lee Taylor. Hey, mate. Now lockdowns have been proven to spread fear and control people. Well, to you and I, it has been proven, but in fact, Ellie had some of her friends in here today, just a small play date, and they are not of that way of thinking. They're very pro lockdown, pro all that sort of stuff. So Lee, I know how you think, and you now know how I think. There are not many people that think the way that we think. Do you see further lockdowns, i.e. green lockdown, change environment, farming lockdown, control the masses by controlling the food? Yeah, eventually. How do you control people? Through fear and food. And yeah, money, basically. That's an old saying. Yes, I think they'll try to send people into cities, easier to control. Yeah, it is. It's a lot easier to confine 10 million people if they're all confined in London than they are around the country. Yeah, get my hat. Yeah, because Richard Hart, the debt doesn't exist, just numbers in a computer system. Okay, I'm going to be pedantic with the terminology there. So the debt exists. There's a real debt. Just like if I lend you £1, but you owe me £2 over the space of 10 years, that's a real debt. You owe me that £2, but the money isn't real. If that makes sense. The debt is real, or debt is money, or currency is debt. That's basically it. So the debt is real, but money or currency as we think of it is digital credit. So yeah, numbers in a computer system. I've just been pedantic the words there, and that's important. So knowing the real definitions is really important to see through stuff, because yeah. Okay, so Coach and Orla. Simon, with what's happening in the US, devaluing of the dollar regarding QE, do you... okay, that's another topic. QE doesn't actually... it's a big topic. Never mind. Do you think gold will ever be reintroduced as a standard? Yes, 100%. Literally, we're going back to old school days of whoever owns the most gold makes the rules. And that's what's happening. That's why China and Russia in particular have been hoarding and importing as much physical gold and silver as they can. With this new economic reset, the people controlling the table at the International Monetary Fund will be the people holding the gold. And I strongly believe there will be a major currency backed by gold. And it won't be 100% backed by gold, it'll be like 10%. But I did another video that if China backs the yuan just by 10% of gold, it pushes the gold price up to $40,000. And that's just if they back the yuan by 10%. It's nuts. James, I'm understanding that a probable outcome is China backs a percentage of the yuan against gold. I've literally just, you've watched my video, cheers. Which also become the new reserve currency. Probable, possible. I say highly likely. They're hoarding the shit out. Oh, mate. Sorry, I'm just saying. Yes, correct. Cool. So I'm massively bullish on gold long term. I am. Siam, I hope you'll upload this to YouTube. Yes, I will be uploading this. Coda did a Simi, probably Trump asking for signs of a doubt. Cool. Any other questions? Cheers, Del. Spot on. So Waynos can see why you change your mind about YouTube, mind you. Yeah. And there's some other reasons. Okay, here we go. Do you think there'll still be a mass melt up of stocks and commodities this year before a huge generational crash next year? 100%. Yeah. In fact, I'm long on the FTSE right now. Look. Here we go. I mean, this is just a short-term trade, relatively speaking, but yeah, I'm long £100 a pip on gold at the moment, or £100 a point. So yeah. Anyway. Craig, Greenhouse, do you think gold ownership will be banned again like it was in the US for 40 years? So that's interesting. So it's 1932 with Roosevelt. He basically he outlawed the private ownership of gold in the US. And what happened is that people that had physical gold had to go to their local Federal Reserve and hand it in for a Federal Reserve note. And and that's the US dollar right now. So you originally had the green bill, which was the original US dollar, and then you had the Federal Reserve note. And what happened is that they killed the greenback, as in the normal proper US dollar, and now the Federal Reserve note is the actual US dollar these days. I've got my wallet somewhere. I always carry around like a $1. Just looking at a $1 US note is, I find it fascinating. Do I think so? When the reset comes, I do think they may do something similar. Now, don't forget, no one ever got raided. Okay, so no SWAT team was bashing down doors. Give me your gold. Never happened. What happens is that the government goes after the big boys. So the government will go after the bullion dealers, the gold banks, all that sort of stuff, or anyone that they deem has a huge chunk of gold sat in some vault somewhere. But they will not go house to house. And in fact, those people back then that kept their gold and silver and didn't hand it over made an absolute fortune over that time, because gold basically shot up over that period of time. Shot up from $35 an ounce, way above $800 an ounce. Talbo, get into Bitcoin today or wait for a pullback and crash. If you want to set and forget and come back in 5 years, get in now. If you want to time your entry a bit, yeah, wait. When we have the inevitable stock market capitulation, gold and silver and crypto will fall with it temporarily. FK, nickel, how are you investing in nickel? I'm not. I guess if you wanted to, you would just go and invest in the biggest nickel explorers and miners. Yeah. Hey darling, so my kids have just got back home. It's going to be noisy. I'm so sorry. I apologise now. Hey darling.
Hello, I got this.
Oh, that's good. I'll be with you in a second, okay?
It's so noisy.
Please don't bring it in here. Can you go and see mummy?
Okay.
Love you. Nickel, I would just buy some big miners, as in their stock. But again, I don't want to buy any stock of any company right now. I really don't, other than Tesla. I still don't even own any Tesla stock. What's your thoughts on Bitcoin in the short term? I think bearish. I think we'll have a little rally, bit of a bear trap, and then, bull trap, and then it'll, when stocks fall, gold and silver and crypto will fall. Bipana, what do you think of the real estate market in the future? That's a broad question. There's different types of real estate in different parts of the world. Long story short, I think it's screwed. Everyone is worried about an overpopulation. So I think everyone's been fooled into thinking that, you know, if you look at the chart of our human population, it's in exponential growth. That is no denying. We are now close to 8 billion people, something like that, 7.8 billion. And there are all sorts of estimates that, you know, in 50 years' time, we're going to be like 20 billion people or 10 billion, or whatever. But what you find is that the higher up the food chain you go, or the more intelligent an animal you get, you have less offspring. And not only that, but then you can't just stop there, because you go, okay, humans, we're top of the food chain. There's still a massive disparity. You have some, and that's because of your, security is the underlying thing. So let's take Africa in general, they have more kids per parent than anywhere on the planet. Why? It's because child mortality rates are so freaking high. In some parts, it's like 25%. So you have 4 kids, knowing that, yeah, something bad will happen to one at least. So but what happens is when you uplift the base level of living. So if you take, you know, there's 2, maybe 3 billion people that are living on less than $2 a day. So if you simply uplift that base level, that you know, the 2 to 3 billion people that are effectively unbanked and whatnot, and I hate saying it like this, and also uneducated, and you improve their medical, their health, so to speak, you'll find that they stop having so many babies. And when you look at all the developed nations on the planet, in fact, I can just draw it instead of just waving my hands around. Move the chat box. We have a top-down demographic. So if you look at Japan, China, Germany, it's top-down. So we have basically we have no young people, or bugger all young people, and lots of old crusty people. Sorry, not old crusty, as in people that are not really contributing to the economic output of a nation. Let's rephrase it like that. And so what happens is that when you have a top-heavy demographic like that, your population does this. Eventually, you have this massive plummet. And what we're already seeing, especially in Germany, is that huge areas of built-up areas are just uninhabited. I mean, China, for one, is one thing. So, again, I don't want to go into that. It's a bit of a big topic, that. But real estate, I think, is screwed, especially commercial real estate, with what's happening right now. I wonder if we'll see another major correction in crypto like March, April. Yeah, I'm banking on it. I don't have any crypto. I have no Tesla stock and I have no crypto. That is it. Mark, interested in joining the WAP, but I have no ideas what type of business to get into. Well, the WAP will help. Yeah. So, it is hands-on. There's a literal checklist of what to do. So yeah, check it out. It's peanuts. It really is. Buy some land in the countryside and get off-grid. Kevin Island, you and I think like, yes. Yeah, one of my personal projects is to be completely off-grid. Off-grid water, off-grid energy, off-grid food. That's one of my personal plans. So, I'm not there yet, annoyingly. I was hoping to be by now, but I'm not. But don't just stop there. So Kevin, I think it's been a while since we chatted. Not just you. So if, let's say you are in the fortunate position where you do have some surplus wealth, okay? And now when I say surplus wealth, I mean you have the ability to create a little bit more than just secure your own family. Instead of just going off-grid for just your house, if possible, try and aim a little bit bigger. So for me personally, my personal plans, I'd like to own outright, no mortgage, at least 100 acres of land, at least. And what I'd like to do is then use chunks of all that land to do lots of different things. So I'd like lots of solar panels. And not only that, I want to set up a solar company to help increase the efficiency of solar panels, all that sort of stuff. So, you know, one chunk of land to do that. And so, yes, I'll have, you know, lots of energy from the sun and whatnot, and stored in Tesla Powerwalls or Tesla utility batteries. But then you can, you know, you could issue or help energy in your local area. Same with vertical farming. I'd like to do lots in vertical farming. So again, not just support my family and insulate my family, but insulate, you know, my extended family and friends, and maybe the local community, etc. So yeah, I do want to get off grid and do a whole bunch of fun stuff. But unfortunately, you need a bunch of capital for that. And there was, yeah, it's frustrating. I had one, I think I've mentioned this in one of my videos. In March, during the lockdown, I did take a bit of a financial hit. I mean, I'm fine, I'm comfy, don't need to worry about me. But I did take a bit of a hit, and one of the businesses, like in the space of a 15-minute Boris announcement, we lost 150 grand a month in revenue. And like, that business was supposed to help finance a few bits and bobs, and so we went back to the drawing boards. Because, yeah. Anyway, that was, yeah, big kick in the nuts. Richard Lowe, hi Siam, can you own cryptos with a pension? Not anymore. So the FCA have basically forced our hand, and they're now banning any crypto derivatives in the UK. So I've currently got some Ether in my pension, actually, now in my SIP. Just remember that. I wonder how it's doing. But by, I think, January or February, they're going to ban it. So for me, I'm simply just going to hold it until they tell me to force sell it. So unfortunately, not in a SAS. However, Richard, there are ways that you can extract cash from your SIP or SAS into your personal bank account, or even your business bank account. There are ways around that. In fact, we did a live session on that a while ago. So, yeah. Question, Lee Taylor, anything better than Canadian maples owned as physical metals? No, they are the pinnacle. Definitely get Canadian maple leaves are the best. Don't buy bars, buy coins. So Tom, so the big countries need gold to be the decision makers. How does this affect us? We're screwed, we're little puppets. I'm not going to be dictating policy with a handful of Krugerrands. No, you're not. So at the end of the day, the UK, all we are is the accounting powerhouse of the planet. That's all we are. The only reason we are still relevant is because we have that small square mile of corruptness in the city of London, and which is the finance hub of Europe, I guess. But really, the UK is the leader of offshore accounting and harbouring cash offshore. I mean, we have more accountants per capita than any other country on the planet. It is ridiculous. Anyway, why will crypto fall with stocks? Will money not flow from stocks to crypto? Yes, they will. But what happens is so many derivatives out there in crypto land is that if we were to have a massive sharp spike, I'll move the down, let's say. What will happen is that crypto will also follow with it. So here we have. Let's just get the S&P 500 up. Let's get the daily chart open on the S&P 500. Yep, S&P's following my little doodles. I drew these doodles a long time ago. So 24th of September. And the market's following them almost spot on. So this is what I'm expecting for the S&P 500. Getting all the way down here. But anyway, if we were to superimpose Bitcoin on top of this, what you'll see is there is a bit of a correlation that's mainly due to the world of financial derivatives. So Bitcoin's big and fat, big fat line over here. So as you can see, I mean, even going back to, so we had a bit of a sell-off over. So look what happened here in stocks. So we had a sell-off in the stock market in 2018, and it really sold off. And guess what? Bitcoin then had a sell-off. Stocks then recovered, and guess what? Bitcoin recovered. And then stocks had a massive sell-off. Bitcoin had a massive sell-off. Stocks had a massive recovery. Bitcoin's having a massive recovery. When stocks roll over, gold and silver and crypto will follow suit. I promise you. Where's the chat box gone? Here it is. Why will crypto? Yeah, that's I wish. James, bye, darling. There we go. Simi, crypto still follows stock markets if there's a big crash. Yeah, so that is. I think you're all answering each other's questions, which is cool. Vatican cleared out gold. Oh, by the way, the UK only has 144 tons of gold, which is nothing. Vatican cleared out of gold, cash and valuables with 650 plane loads flown to Fort Knox and other US Treasury locations. I think that was a long time ago. I don't know if it's still there, but yeah. One of the reasons why the Bretton Woods, not Bretton Woods, 1975 when Nixon unpegged the dollar from gold. One of the reasons for that is because all the gold was in Fort Knox, basically. So loads of European nations held all of their gold in Fort Knox. So they did that during World War II because they're scared of Hitler and Nazis and whatever. So let's store all our gold in America. That's nice and safe. But what then happens that America basically let's stop sharing this. You just so you can see my face a bit. So what happened is that America then started printing loads of dollars in respect to how much gold they owned, even though it wasn't their gold. So they're effectively money printing or counterfeiting based on the gold that they had. And then Charles de Gaulle, the ruler of France at the time, was a smart cookie. He was like, we want our gold back. America went, no. And then they went, no, we want our gold back. And then he sent a warship over, as a show of force, basically. And then basically Charles de Gaulle, France, got all their gold back from Fort Knox. And then loads of other countries started following suit. So there was there's a gold run. So gold was being withdrawn from Fort Knox at a high rate. So that's why one of the reasons why Nixon disbanded the dollar, or unpegged the dollar from gold. So where is the chat box? It's disappeared since I've stopped. Here it is. How to time the next pump in the market and get out in some time. So that's a big question. Honestly, any answer I give you, I can also pick up flaws in the answer just because there's... Yeah, sorry. I can't answer that quickly because it really depends on the techniques that you use. But like I said to a friend, like who was just looking for a fire and forget thing. He was just basically looking for... share my chart again. Here we go. He was looking for something just to set and forget. And I was like, dude, if you just want to set and forget, look at the S&P 500. Or hell, let's look at the NASDAQ, which is the most overinflated index out there. It's freaking nuts. If you really wanted, just if you had enough money, or you just fund an account, go short here, put a limit down, wherever down here, and just wait. And then you don't need to worry. Make sure you have enough margin so all the fluctuations don't hurt you. But eventually when it gets back down to here, you'll take profit. You can do that with stocks. You can then do that with oil. Oil will definitely fall. Oil's got a long way to go. So as I said back here in August, oil will hit $20. So if you want to just sit and forget, just go short on oil and just wait. Oil should not be up here at all, especially with all the lockdowns happening and global commerce. Game over. I think, right, it's getting towards dinner time, ladies and gents, and I'm going to be cooled down in a minute. You know what it's like. So I'm going to stop the share there. Where's the chat? I think there's only a few comments left. Coach and Orla, I've landed in Fiji. What would suit you down to... That would suit you down to the ground time. Ah, nice. I want to do the same as Tau Island, Samoa. Tessa is involved. Have a gander. Ah, nice. Mark, do you think there is any hope for the American dream on pure capitalism anymore? Yeah, if you get good at business, there still is. I guess business, if you nail business, that's still the American dream, I guess. If anything, all of this is going to create huge opportunities. Huge. Not a time for this, and that'll be for another time. I mean, I've got a whole bunch of ideas which I can't wait to deploy, but they're about 2 to 3 years out before I can do it. And yeah, do you keep an eye on the times, Ellie? Yeah, thanks for your answers. Thanks, awesome video. Cool. Well, boys and girls, thank you so much for your time. I'm actually quite shocked that there's still 45 of you here. In my head, I feel that this has been some weird tin pot coming out of the closet, Siam's an idiot type video. So I guess it is quite, mind you, some of you are probably still thinking that. So it is quite comforting that the feedback hasn't been too bad. Yeah, it's just my thoughts. Please look at everything yourself. And I wish you all the best. Have fun. Yeah, just in fact, if you go to YouTube and just click the bell, subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the bell, and you'll get all the macro metrics videos. It's worth doing. So have fun. I'm now gonna go and put the kids to bed and all that sort of stuff, and I'll see you soon. Toodles. Bye. Oh, and for James, bye, darling.